The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. Chapter 1. The Birth of Princess Kaguya. A long, long time ago, in a land of forests and mountains, there lived an old bamboo cutter. Every day, he would walk deep into the woods, cutting bamboo and using it for many things. His name was Sanuki no Mayatsuko. One day, while tending to his work, he saw something strange. Among all the bamboo stalks, one stood out. Its base was glowing with a mysterious light. Curious, he stepped closer, and when he cut the stalk open, he found something incredible inside. There, shining softly in the hollow of the bamboo, sat a tiny girl, no more than 3 inches tall. She was the most beautiful little creature he had ever seen. The old man's heart filled with wonder. "She must be a gift from heaven," he whispered. "She appeared inside the bamboo I see every morning and night. Surely, she was meant to become my child." He gently lifted the tiny girl into the palm of his hand and carried her home. His wife, the old woman, cared for her with great love. Because she was so small, they kept her in a basket and raised her with care. And oh, how precious she was! So lovely, so radiant, they couldn't take their eyes off her. From that day on, something miraculous began to happen. Whenever the old man cut bamboo, he would find gold hidden inside the stalks. Time and again, golden light shimmered between the nodes. And before long, the once poor bamboo cutter became wealthy. The little girl grew up quickly. In just 3 short months, she was the size of a full-grown child. They held a celebration, tying her hair in a noble style and dressing her in elegant robes. She was raised with the utmost care, kept within silk curtains, hidden from the outside world. Her beauty was like nothing the world had ever known. The entire house seemed to glow with her presence. There was no more darkness. Whenever the old man was tired or unwell, just looking at her would lift his spirits. Even sorrow and anger would melt away in her light. Meanwhile, the gold kept flowing from the bamboo, and the man's fortune continued to grow. When the girl was old enough, the couple called upon a wise man named Akita from the clan of Minamoto no Embi. They asked him to give her a name. He named her Naotate no Kaguya, the shining princess of the bamboo. For 3 days and nights, they celebrated her naming with a grand feast. There was music, poetry, dancing, and laughter. Men of every rank were invited, and the joy was like that of a royal court. And so began the tale of Kaguya, the mysterious girl who came from the light and changed the lives of all who met her. Chapter 2. The noble suitors propose marriage. Word of Kaguya's beauty spread far and wide, stirring the hearts of men throughout the land. High or low in status, it didn't matter, every man dreamed of winning her hand. Though she was rarely seen, hidden away within her guardian's home, hopeful suitors gathered outside the gate and hedge, longing for a glimpse. Day and night, they stayed, some even dug holes in the fence, desperate to peer inside. It's said that this frenzy is how the old term yobai, to court a woman, first came about. Even in the most remote or dangerous places, suitors wandered aimlessly, hoping to prove their love. They sent messages to the house, but none were answered. Many spent entire nights outside, refusing to leave. Those with weaker resolve gave up eventually, calling it a foolish waste of time. But 5 men remained, renowned for their romantic hearts and unwilling to give up. Day and night, they came with unwavering devotion. Their names were Prince Ishizukuri, Prince Kuramochi, the Minister of the Right Aid no Myoshir, the Grand Counselor Ōtomo no Miyuki, and the Middle Counselor Isanokami no Marotari. These men were known for chasing rumors of beauty across the land, and now they wandered restlessly around the bamboo cutter's home. They wrote letters with no replies. They composed poems of longing and received none in return. Yet through winter's snow and summer's thunder, their visits never ceased. One day, they approached the old bamboo cutter and pleaded, "Please, allow us to marry your daughter." They bowed low, hands pressed together. But the old man only said, "She is not truly our child. I cannot decide this on my own." And time passed. Still, the 5 noblemen continued to pray to the gods, clinging to hope. Surely, they thought, the old man won't deny all of us forever. And so they kept returning, day after day, to prove the sincerity of their hearts. Watching their devotion, the old man turned to Kaguya. "My beloved child, more precious than any treasure. Though you may not be of this world, I've raised you with great care. Please, hear this old man out. I'm over 70 now. I may not live much longer. In this world, men take wives and women take husbands. This is how families grow strong. You, too, must find a husband someday." Kaguya replied, "How could I not listen to your words? You are my true father, and I respect you as such." The old man was touched. "Then hear me out. While I live, I may keep you near, but those 5 noblemen have waited so long. You must choose one among them to marry." But Kaguya replied, "How can I make such a choice when I don't know their true hearts? What if I marry, only to be cast aside later? I fear regret." The old man said, "They are all men of noble heart. What more could you seek?" She answered, "I don't need proof of great virtue, just one simple sign. All 5 seem equal in devotion. If one of them brings me something I wish to see, I'll believe in the depth of his heart and serve him as his wife." The old man agreed. That evening, as usual, the 5 suitors gathered. One played the flute, another sang songs, another recited poetry. Some clapped rhythms, some played games. Then the old man stepped out. "My lords," he said, "you honor our humble home with your many visits. As an old man with little time left, I've asked my daughter to consider your proposals. She has replied, if one among them shows me something I truly wish to see, I shall know the sincerity of his heart and serve him faithfully. I believe this is a fair test." The suitors all agreed. And so, Kaguya gave her conditions. To Prince Ishizukuri, she said, "Bring me the stone begging bowl of the Buddha, a sacred treasure said to exist in India." To Prince Kuramochi, she said, "From the eastern sea lies Mount Horai, where a tree grows with silver roots, a golden trunk, and jeweled fruit. Bring me a single branch." To Abe no Myoshir, she said, "There exists in China a robe made from the fire rat's fur. Bring it to me." To Ōtomo no Miyuki, she said, "There is a dragon whose neck bears a jewel that shines in 5 colors. Bring me that jewel." To Isanokami no Marotari, she said, "Swallows are said to carry a shell that grants safe childbirth. Retrieve one for me." The old man, hearing this, was troubled. "These are impossible requests," he said. "None of these things are found in our land. How could I tell them such things?" But Kaguya calmly replied, "Why should it be impossible?" With no choice, the old man relayed the conditions. When the 5 noblemen heard, they sighed deeply. She may as well have said, "Don't ever come near me again," they grumbled. And with that, they all went home, uncertain whether they would ever return. Chapter 3. The Story of Prince Ishizukuri. Still, Prince Ishizukuri felt he simply could not go on living in this world unless he married Kaguya. "I'll bring her the bowl," he said to himself, "even if it truly lies in far-off India." But he was a clever man, sharp and calculating. He thought, even if I were to travel thousands upon thousands of miles to India, how could I ever find the Buddha's stone begging bowl, something that is said to exist only once in the world? So instead, he came up with a trick. First, he sent word to Kaguya. "Today, I depart for India to retrieve the sacred bowl." Then, after about 3 years had passed, he secretly found an old soot-covered bowl sitting before the statue of Bendoru, the healer monk, in a mountain temple located in Toichi County, Yamato Province. He placed the bowl in a brocade pouch, fastened it to an artificial flower branch, and brought it to Kaguya-Hime's house, claiming it was the true treasure. Kaguya-Hime, curious but suspicious, looked inside the bowl. There was a letter tucked within. Unfolding it, she read, "From the land of Tsukushi, I crossed stormy seas and climbed distant mountains. At last, after enduring every hardship, I reached India. And there, shedding tears of blood, I finally obtained this sacred stone bowl." But when Kaguya-Hime looked into the bowl, she saw no radiance, not even the faintest glow of a firefly. She softly replied, "If this were truly the sacred bowl, it would surely shine, if only with the faint light of dew upon the grass. Yet what did you bring me back from that dark, gloomy mountain, where no light dwells?" With that, she returned the bowl. Humiliated, Prince Ishizukuri threw the bowl down at the gate and recited a poem in reply. "I saw your radiant beauty, shining bright like Mount Shirayama in snow. And in your light, the bowl's glow disappeared. I cast the bowl away, but now I cast away my shame as well, and beg only to be held in your heart." He sent this poem to her, but Kaguya-Hime did not reply. She would not even let the words reach her ears. The prince, with nothing left to say, turned and left in silence. From that day forward, when someone behaves shamelessly, throwing away all pride just to get what they want, people say, he's cast away his shame, just like the prince who threw away the bowl and dared to return again. Chapter 4. The Tale of Prince Kuramochi. Prince Kuramochi was a man of cunning mind. He went to the imperial court and formally requested leave, saying, "I must travel to Tsukushi for the sake of my health, to bathe in the healing hot springs." At the same time, he sent a messenger to Kaguya-Hime's house, declaring that he was setting off to retrieve the jeweled branch from Mount Horai. Everyone who served him believed his words and accompanied him as far as Naniwa. But he told them, keep this journey a secret, and dismissed most of his attendants, keeping only a handful of trusted aides. After they all returned to the capital, the prince stealthily came back to Naniwa 3 days later. Everything had already been arranged in advance. He summoned 6 of the finest metalworkers in the land, renowned for crafting precious treasures, and had a heavily guarded workshop built, so secluded that no outsiders could approach. Within this compound, he placed the artisans enjoying them himself. Then, pouring in the wealth from 16 of his own estates, along with all the treasures from his storerooms, he commanded the creation of the jeweled branch, exactly as Kaguya-Hime had described it. With utmost care and craftsmanship, it was forged and finished, glittering with gold and adorned with dazzling jewels, just as she had imagined. Quietly, the prince transported it back to Naniwa. He sent word to his residents in the capital, "I have returned from my voyage." Then, appearing utterly worn and weary, he collapsed into a seat, feigning exhaustion. A crowd gathered to welcome him home. The jeweled branch was placed in a long chest, concealed beneath layers of cloth, and carried into the capital in secret. Before long, rumors began to swirl throughout the city. Prince Kuramochi has returned from afar, bearing the fabled Udange blossom. Kaguya heard this and grew anxious. I may have finally met my match, she murmured, her heart heavy with dread. Just then, a knock came at the gate. Prince Kuramochi has arrived, his messenger announced. He still wears the garb of travel, said the attendant. The old bamboo cutter went out to greet him. I risked my life for this, said the prince. I bring you the jeweled branch from Mount Horai. Please show it to Lady Kaguya. He handed it over. Tied to the branch was a letter. It read, though I feared my life would end in vain, I would never have returned empty-handed, without this branch plucked from the peak of legend. Kaguya glanced at the letter without much emotion. Then the old man rushed in, excitement in his voice. He has brought the exact branch you asked for. Surely you can refuse him no longer. He hasn't even stopped by his home, he came straight here. It's time, my dear. You must become his bride. But Kaguya only rested her cheek in her palm and said nothing, overcome with disappointment. The prince, sensing victory, said, There's no turning me away now. He stepped up onto the veranda. The old man, delighted, began preparing the inner chamber for the wedding. This branch is unlike anything seen in our land, he said. Such a fine man, and such a treasure, how can we possibly decline him? Kaguya, her voice soft, finally spoke. I only made such a request to spare my poor parents the shame of my refusals. I asked for something impossible to obtain, and yet, here he stands. She looked upon the jeweled branch with bitterness. The old man busied himself preparing the wedding bed. Meanwhile, he asked the prince, Where did you find such a wondrous tree? It's too beautiful to be of this world. The prince replied, 3 years ago, around the 10th day of the 2nd month, I boarded a boat from Naniwa and set out to sea. I had no idea which way to go. Still, I believed that if I could not fulfill my vow, life itself held no meaning. I left my fate to the winds. If death came, so be it. But if I lived, I would search until I reached the legendary Mount Horai. And so I drifted farther and farther, beyond the seas of our own land. At times, storms nearly dragged me to the ocean floor. At others, we were driven to foreign shores where monstrous beasts tried to devour me. We lost our way again and again, nearly perishing in the open sea. Once, with no food left, we scraped roots from a deserted island. Another time, a demon rose from the mist, gnashing its teeth and clawing at our boat. We ate seashells to survive. I fell ill, with no one to help, unsure if I would see another day. Still, we sailed on, wherever the waves might carry us. Then, on the 500th day since our departure, at dawn, just past the hour of the dragon, we saw a faint shape on the horizon. It was a mountain, floating above the sea. We strained our eyes. Yes, it was massive, towering into the clouds. I found it, I thought, joy and fear welling in my chest. For 2 or 3 days, we circled the island cautiously. Then she appeared. A woman in robes of heaven, carrying a silver bowl and drawing water from a stream. We disembarked. I approached her and asked, What is the name of this mountain? She answered, This is Mount Horai. My heart leapt with joy. She asked who I was, and I told her. I am called Yukenruri, she said. Then she vanished, slipping back into the mountain. The mountain was fearsome to behold, so steep, so rugged, it seemed impossible for anyone to climb. As I circled around its slopes, I saw trees in full bloom with flowers more beautiful than anything of this world. Streams of gold, silver, and lapis lazuli flowed down its sides. Bridges made of precious gems spanned the rivers, and near them stood trees that shimmered in the light. Among them, I found many branches more splendid than this one, but I believed I must honor the princess's wishes. So I chose this single branch and brought it back with me. The mountain was magnificent beyond compare. There is nothing like it in all the world. But having plucked this branch, I felt ill at ease. I boarded my ship and caught the wind home, returning after more than 400 days. Perhaps it was by the great grace of Buddha that I survived and arrived yesterday from Naniwa. I came here straight away without even changing out of these sea-soaked robes. The old man, hearing the prince's tale, let out a long sigh of admiration and composed a poem. Since the ancient days when I have cut bamboo, I have wandered the fields and hills. Yet have I ever suffered so in those places? The prince replied, Long days I've spent in hardship and despair. But now, today, my weary heart finds peace. My sleeves, soaked with sea and sorrow, will at last dry in this bright day's light. Just then, 6 unfamiliar men appeared in the garden. One stepped forward with a letter tucked in a wooden letter holder and spoke. I am Ōtomo of the Han clan, a craftsman of the Imperial Bureau of Carpentry. I labored for over 1,000 days without rest or reward to create this jeweled branch. And yet, I have not received my due payment. I ask now that I be compensated, so I may reward those who served under me. With that, he held the letter high. The bamboo cutter furrowed his brow and asked, What is this man talking about? The prince stood stunned, frozen in shock. When Princess Kaguya heard what had happened, she calmly said to her attendant, Take that letter. She received it, read its contents, and found it said, Prince Kuramochi hid himself among humble craftsmen for 1,000 days. He had us craft a jeweled branch of peerless beauty, promising us rank and reward. Now we learn that this branch was meant as a gift to Princess Kaguya, whom the prince hopes to wed. Therefore, we ask to be compensated from this household for our labor. The men added that they expected full payment. As the sun set, the princess, who had grown increasingly weary, suddenly burst into a bright and joyful smile. She called to the old man. I truly believed this was a branch from Mount Horai, but it turns out to be a mere counterfeit. Please return it at once. The old man nodded. If it was crafted by men, returning it is simple enough. Relieved and clear of heart, the princess composed a poem in return. I had hoped it true and found it fair. But now I see it was a trick. A branch of words, not one of gems. With that, she sent the jeweled branch back. Ashamed by how deeply he had boasted and bonded with the prince, the bamboo cutter pretended to be asleep. The prince, too embarrassed to stand and too awkward to sit, remained frozen in place. As night fell, he slipped away under cover of darkness. Later, the princess summoned the craftsmen and said warmly, You are to be thanked, and gave them generous rewards. Delighted, they left saying, We knew this would happen. But on their way home, Prince Kuramochi's men ambushed and beat them until they bled. All their rewards were seized and discarded. The craftsmen fled, now penniless. The prince lamented, Never in all my life have I faced such shame. I have not only lost the maiden I sought, but now must endure the world's scorn. He disappeared into the deep mountains, alone. Servants and officials searched for him far and wide, but he was never found. Whether he died or simply vanished, no one could say. It is said he went into hiding for many years. From this tale, people began to use the phrase tamasakaru, to have one's soul depart. Now, Minister Abe no Milshire was a wealthy and powerful man. That year, a merchant named Oke arrived from China. The minister sent a letter with his trusted retainer Ono no Fumamori, asking the merchant to procure the legendary fire rat robe. Upon reaching China, Fumamori delivered the letter and gold. The merchant read the letter and replied, "Such a robe does not exist in this country. I've heard rumors of it, but never seen one. If it truly exists, it must be in India. I shall search among the wealthy and the monks. If I find none, I'll return your money through this envoy." Eventually, the Chinese ship returned to Tsukushi. Word reached the capital that Fumamori had returned. The minister sent a swift horse to meet him. In just 7 days, Fumamori arrived from Tsukushi to the capital. He brought a letter from Oke. "After much effort, I have obtained what I believe to be the fire rat robe. It is a rare treasure. I learned it had been brought to a western mountain temple by a saint from India. I petitioned the court and finally bought it, paying extra from my own purse. I ask that you send 50 more ryo of gold with the next ship. If not, kindly return the robe." The minister, reading this, said, "Only a little more gold? This is wonderful." He bowed in reverence toward China. The box containing the robe was adorned with jewels of many hues, and when opened, the robe within was a deep indigo, with golden-tipped fur, a breathtaking sight. "Truly worthy of the princess," he said, and dressed in his finest, certain this time he would win her hand. He composed a poem and carried both box and hope to her gate. "Not fire itself can burn this robe. And so I bring it now to you. My sleeves, once soaked with tears, today are dry with joy anew." The old man received the treasure and brought it to the princess. She looked at the robe and said, "It's beautiful. But how can I be sure it's truly the fire rat robe?" The old man replied, "Surely this is no ordinary garment. Please accept it without doubt and do not trouble the noble minister." He then invited the minister in and offered him a seat. The old woman, too, was hopeful. She and the old man had longed to see the princess wed, and they were sure this would be the day. But the princess had always refused. She now said to the old man, "If this robe does not burn in fire, I shall believe it genuine and accept his suit. You say it's beyond doubt, but I must see proof." The old man replied, "That's fair," and told the minister. The minister protested, "I went to such lengths for this. What is there to doubt?" But the old man urged him to burn it quickly. When they cast it into the fire, the robe flared and burned to ash. "Well," said the old man, "so it was a fake after all." The minister's face went pale as grass, and he sat speechless. The princess beamed with joy. She placed her reply in the box where the robe had been. "Had I known it would burn to ash, I would not have worried so. I'd have simply placed it far from flame, and admired it for what it was." And so, the minister left in silence. People around town gossiped, "Lord Abe has brought the fire rat robe. Surely he and the princess will wed." But others said, "The robe burned to ash. She refused him." From that time on, when someone fails in their purpose, it is said to be Ahe-nashi, Abe's failure. Chapter 5. The Tale of Dainagon Ōtomo no Miyuki. Dainagon Ōtomo no Miyuki gathered all his retainers at his estate and issued a bold command. It is said that a jewel of 5-colored radiance rests upon the neck of a dragon. Whoever among you brings it back to me, your wish shall be granted. The retainers bowed deeply, then spoke cautiously. We understand the honor in your command, my lord. But such a jewel is no easy thing to obtain. And how would we even begin to retrieve a jewel from a dragon's neck? At this, Dainagon flew into a rage. A retainer must be prepared to sacrifice his life for his master. The dragon's jewel isn't some foreign treasure from India or China. It exists here, in the mountains and seas of Japan. Dragons rise and fall from these very lands. How dare you claim it is beyond reach? Trembling, the retainers bowed again. If it is your command, then we have no choice. Though the task may be near impossible, we will search for the jewel as you ask. Hearing this, Dainagon calmed. You are my retainers, and the world knows it. How could you defy your master's order? He reaffirmed the mission, then gave them food, fine silks, cotton, and coins, everything he could gather, and sent them on their way. Until you return, he declared, I shall purify myself in prayer. But listen well, do not return without the jewel. And so, under strict orders, the retainers set out. But truth be told, they had no intention of finding the jewel. Told not to return unless they succeeded, they simply scattered in whatever direction their feet took them. What a ridiculous task, they muttered. Still, we may as well divide up the rewards. And that they did, splitting the goods among themselves. Some returned home, others wandered off to places they preferred. To think our master would issue such a senseless command, they complained. Not even a parent or lord should demand something so unreasonable. Meanwhile, Dainagon was busy preparing for Kaguya-Hime's arrival. She cannot marry into an ordinary household, he said, and so he built a magnificent mansion. The walls were lacquered and decorated with gold designs, the roof was thatched with threads dyed in many colors, and between every column hung exquisite silk tapestries painted with elegant scenes. His other wives were moved out, and he began living alone, preparing eagerly for his future with Kaguya-Hime. But days turned to months, and no word came from the retainers. Growing impatient, Dainagon set out in disguise with only 2 attendants, traveling to the port of Naniwa, modern-day Osaka. There, he had his men ask the sailors, Have you heard of the retainers of Lord Ōtomo no Dainagon setting out from here to slay a dragon and retrieve its jewel? One sailor laughed. That's a strange tale indeed. No ship around here would take on such a task. Dainagon scowled. Fools! They know nothing of my power. If I were to see a dragon myself, I would strike it down with a single arrow. Why wait for cowardly servants? And with that, he boarded a ship and set sail, scouring the seas in search of the dragon. Before long, the winds began to howl. The sky darkened, and waves battered the vessel. They lost all sense of direction. Thunder cracked so fiercely it seemed the heavens would split, and the ship was nearly swallowed by the sea. Dainagon trembled. I've never suffered like this before. What fate awaits me? The ship's captain cried, I've sailed these waters for years and never seen such fury. If the sea doesn't take us, lightning surely will. If the gods still have mercy, perhaps they'll cast us to the southern seas. But serving a master like you, what a pitiful end. Dainagon turned pale. On a ship, one must trust the captain as if gazing up at a sacred mountain. How can you speak so hopelessly? But his words were cut short as he leaned over and vomited from seasickness. The captain shook his head. I'm no god. What can I do? We are caught in a storm of wind and waves, and now lightning threatens from above. All this, because you sought to slay a dragon. This storm is the dragon's wrath. Pray to the gods. Dainagon, finally humbled, nodded. You are right. He stood, then knelt, and began to weep, reciting prayers over and over. O divine spirits worshipped by the ship's captain, hear my vow. In foolish pride, I sought to slay a dragon. Never again. I shall not so much as pluck a single scale. He prayed 1,000 times, until at last, the thunder ceased. The lightning grew dim. Though the wind still howled, the storm had begun to weaken. The captain spoke. This is the dragon's doing. But now, the wind favors us. It blows not toward danger, but toward safety. Yet Dainagon was too ill and exhausted to hear. For 3 or 4 days, the wind carried the ship. Finally, they drifted toward shore. Looking out, the captain recognized the land. It was the coast of Akashi in Harima province. But Dainagon, delirious, believed they had been blown to the southern sea. He lay motionless with a deep sigh. Word was sent to the provincial governor, and he arrived at once, only to find Dainagon unable to stand. A mat was laid out among the pines by the shore, and the Dainagon was carried off the ship. At last, realizing they had not reached the distant south, he sat up, but he was barely recognizable. His body was bloated, and his eyes were so swollen they looked like 2 plums stuck to his face. Even the governor couldn't help but smirk at the sight. Dainagon had a palanquin made and was carried home, groaning all the way. Soon after, the retainers he had sent off, those who never even searched for the dragon, returned. We failed to retrieve the jewel, they said, and so we stayed away. But now, seeing you understand how impossible the task was, we return without fear. Dainagon sat upright. You fools, you were right not to bring back the jewel. The dragon is kin to thunder itself. Had you found it, many would have died, and I too would have perished. That villainous Kaguya gave us an impossible task to bring about our deaths. I shall never again approach her mansion. And neither shall you. With that, he gave away what little remained of his fortune to the very retainers who had defied his order. When his estranged wife heard all this, she laughed so hard her stomach cramped. The rainbow-colored threads from his mansion's roof? Birds had plucked them all away to make their nests. People in town began to whisper. So, did Lord Ōtomo retrieve the dragon's jewel? No, came the reply, but he returned with 2 plum-like jewels stuck to his eyes instead. And thus, whenever someone's words and deeds are wildly out of sync, people say, "Ah, truly unbearable." Chapter 6. The Tale of Chūnagon Ishigami no Marotari. Once upon a time, there was a nobleman named Chūnagon Ishigami no Marotari. One day, he gave a peculiar order to his retainers. If you see a swallow building a nest, come and report it to me immediately. His retainers, puzzled, asked, What do you plan to do with that information, my lord? Chūnagon replied, Swallows carry with them the Kyoyasugai, the childbearing shell. I intend to obtain one. The retainers tried to reason with him. No matter how many swallows you kill and open up, you'll never find such a shell inside them. It's only said that they clutch it near their bellies when they give birth. Besides, if anyone lays eyes on it, it vanishes instantly. Even so, another man came to Chūnagon with what he thought was a brilliant idea. There's a rice-cooking building at the imperial kitchens, and nearly every beam has a swallow's nest on it. If you send loyal men there, build a tall platform, and have them observe from above, surely you will see many swallows giving birth, and perhaps retrieve a Kyoyasugai. Chūnagon's eyes lit up. What a marvelous idea! I never would have thought of that. Excellent! He quickly dispatched about 20 trusted retainers to the site. They erected tall scaffolding and climbed up to watch the nests. Chūnagon, excited and impatient, sent messengers again and again. "Have you got the shell yet?" But the swallows were frightened by the many people looming above, and none dared return to their nests. When this was reported back to him, Chūnagon clutched his head in frustration. Just then, an elderly man named Kurozumuro, an official of the imperial kitchens, came forward and offered his counsel. "If you truly wish to obtain a Kyoyasugai, I can teach you the proper method." Chūnagon, eager to hear his wisdom, forgot all about rank or formality and leaned in closely to listen. Kurozumuro explained, "You'll never succeed by doing things the way you are now. Sending 20 men to climb a tall platform just scares the birds away. Here is the correct method: dismantle the scaffolding, have everyone withdraw, and choose a single loyal retainer. Place him in a basket woven with wide gaps, attach ropes to it so you can raise and lower it swiftly. Then, when a swallow is about to give birth, raise the basket and have the man snatch the Kyoyasugai in that instant." Chūnagon was delighted. "This is a splendid idea." He immediately ordered the platform torn down and dismissed the men back to his estate. Then he asked Kurozumuro, "But how will we know when a swallow is about to give birth?" Kurozumuro replied, "When a swallow is ready, it lifts its tail and circles 7 times before laying its egg. When you see this, raise the basket right as the bird completes its 7th turn, and grab the shell at that moment." Chūnagon, thrilled by this secret strategy, kept it from the public and set out secretly for the kitchens with a few men. Day and night, they watched. He was so grateful to Kurozumuro for offering help without being his servant that he removed his own robes and presented them as a reward. He also invited the old man to return again that night. As evening fell, Chūnagon himself went to observe. Sure enough, swallows had made nests, and just as Kurozumuro had said, they began lifting their tails and circling. Chūnagon placed a retainer in the basket and raised him up. The man reached into the nest, but returned empty-handed. "There's nothing there," he reported. Chūnagon scowled. "You're searching wrong. Let me do it myself." He climbed into the basket and was hoisted into the air. Looking into the nest, he saw the swallow circling fervently, tail raised. Just as he was told, he reached in and felt something flat in his hand. "I've got it. Lower me now," he cried. "Old man, I did it." His retainers rushed to lower him, but in their excitement, they pulled too hard, the rope snapped. Chūnagon fell backward, landing flat on a stack of 8 heavy bronze cauldrons. Everyone panicked and rushed to his side. He was unconscious, eyes rolled back. They gave him water, and slowly, he came to. They helped him off the cauldrons and laid him on the ground. "Are you all right, my lord?" they asked. Gasping, barely able to speak, Chūnagon said, "I can't move my waist, but I've got the Kyoyasugai. Bring a light, I want to see it." He raised his trembling hand, opened it, and found not a shell, but a lump of old bird droppings. Looking at the foul mess, he groaned, "It's not the kai shell, after all." And from that day forward, people began to use the word kainashi, meaning in vain or pointless, whenever something disappointing happened. His condition worsened. Seeing with his own eyes that he had not found the shell broke his spirit. His waist was bent so badly he couldn't even lie straight in a coffin. He tried to keep the foolish incident secret, but the shame of it ate away at him more than the injuries. He feared people would laugh if the story got out, and that thought tormented him far more than death itself. Hearing of his plight, Princess Kaguya sent a poem to comfort him. though you haven't visited in a long while. Like the pines on the Sumiyoshi shore, untouched by waves or wanderers. I hear rumors there is no Kai to be found. Could it be true? A nearby retainer read it aloud to the bedridden Chūnagon. Though his strength was nearly gone, he lifted his head and had someone bring paper and brush. With great effort, he wrote a reply. No Kai was found, this is true. Yet your kind concern brings me hope. Might you scoop up what's left of my life? With a Kai, or even a spoon? And with that final line, he passed away. When Princess Kaguya heard this, she felt a twinge of sorrow. And from then on, people began to use the phrase Kai-ari. There was value in it, when something, even small, brought joy. Chapter 7. The Emperor's Proposal to Princess Kaguya. Now, word of Princess Kaguya's beauty, unparalleled in all the land, reached the Emperor himself. Intrigued, His Majesty turned to one of his court ladies, Lady Fusako of the Nakatomi clan, and said, I hear this woman is so extraordinarily beautiful that she refuses every proposal and causes men to ruin themselves for her. Go at once and see what kind of lady she truly is. Lady Fusako respectfully received the imperial command and departed for the home of the bamboo cutter. When she arrived, the old couple welcomed her with great humility and led her inside. The lady addressed the old woman, saying, By His Majesty's command, I have come to see Princess Kaguya, whose beauty is said to be unmatched. The old woman replied, Very well, I shall inform her. She entered the inner room and said to Kaguya, Please, come greet the imperial messenger. But Kaguya answered, I am not so lovely as they say. Why should I present myself to a noble lady of the court? The old woman scolded her gently. How can you treat His Majesty's messenger with such disregard? Yet Kaguya replied, Even if the Emperor himself commands it, I feel no fear and see no reason to obey. She steadfastly refused to show herself. Though usually meek and gentle as a daughter, today Kaguya was cold and distant, and the old woman found herself unable to insist further. Lady Fusako returned and reported, Regretfully, this young girl is too immature to understand her place. She refused to meet me. The lady was appalled. His Majesty ordered me to see her. How can I return without fulfilling his command? Who in this realm dares disobey the Emperor? This is outrageous. Her words stung so deeply that even the old woman blushed with shame. But when Kaguya overheard them, she said with a firm voice, If it is a crime to defy the Emperor, then take my life now. The court lady returned to the palace and reported everything. Upon hearing it, the Emperor said, Truly, she speaks as one who has already caused the deaths of many men. For now, he let the matter rest. But he could not forget her. Shall I be defeated by the will of a woman? He declared, and sent another message to the bamboo cutter. You must present this Princess Kaguya to me. I sent an envoy upon hearing of her famed beauty, yet she refused even to show her face. This defiance cannot be left unaddressed. The old man trembled as he replied, This girl is wholly unfit to serve in the court. She's beyond my control, and I am troubled by it. But I shall return home and convey His Majesty's words to her. When the Emperor heard this, he said, How can one raised in your own hands not follow your will? Were she your real daughter, she'd obey you. Present her to me, and I shall grant you the rank of 5th order. The bamboo cutter was overjoyed. He hurried home and spoke to Kaguya. There is no mistaking His Majesty's intent. Will you still refuse to serve him? Kaguya replied. I will not serve in the palace. If you force me, I will vanish from this world. You may accept the title for yourself, but I am prepared to die. The old man pleaded. Don't say such things. What use is rank if I lose you? But why must you reject life in the palace? Is there any reason so grave it would cost your life? She answered. Then test me. If I go without dying, then you may say I lied. But I've already ruined the lives of so many noble men who loved me truly. To obey the emperor now would shame their memory. Hearing this, the old man declared, No matter what others may think, your life is all that matters to me. I will return to the palace and decline His Majesty's command. He did just that, bowing low and saying, Though I am honored by your words, my daughter insists she will die if forced into palace service. She is not even my true child. Long ago, I found her in the mountains. She has never been like others of this world. Then the emperor said, I've heard that your home lies near the base of the mountains. Perhaps I shall see her with my own eyes, under the pretense of a hunting expedition. The bamboo cutter replied, A fine idea, Your Majesty. If you arrive suddenly, you may catch her off guard and get a glimpse of her. And so the emperor made plans. On the appointed day, he set out for the hunt and arrived at the bamboo cutter's home. There, seated in the soft glow of light, was a figure of radiant beauty. The emperor approached quietly, thinking, This must be her. As Kaguya tried to retreat into the inner room, he caught the sleeve of her robe. Though she turned her face away, the emperor saw her fully for the first time. She was beyond compare, truly otherworldly. Moved, he tried to stop her from fleeing, intending to bring her with him. Kaguya replied, If I had been born of this world, I might have served you as a court lady. But I am not, and taking me away will not be easy. Still the emperor insisted, No matter what, I will take you. But as he reached out again, Kaguya vanished before his eyes, her body turning to a mere shadow. Stricken and ashamed, the emperor sighed. She is no ordinary being. Then he spoke. I will not take you. Return to your true form, and let me at least see you once more. At this, Kaguya appeared again. The emperor, now more captivated than ever, was overwhelmed with admiration. He praised the bamboo cutter for arranging this encounter. The old man hosted a grand feast for the emperor's attendants. Though His Majesty left Kaguya behind, his heart remained with her. Even as his palanquin carried him away, he composed a poem. Each step away from you weighs on me. I turn back again and again. For you defy my command, and thus hold me fast. Kaguya, in turn, sent a poem back. Born and raised in a house of weeds, I am not fit to live among jeweled halls and shining palaces. Reading her reply, the emperor found himself unable to return to the palace in spirit. Still, the night could not be spent away from court, and he reluctantly returned. As he passed through the gates, he looked upon the ladies of the court. None could compare. Even the fairest among them now seemed dull beside her. Only thoughts of Kaguya filled his heart. He ceased to visit his consorts and queens, sending letters only to her. Moved by his sincerity, Kaguya responded in kind. Throughout the seasons, the emperor sent her poems, tied with the blossoms of spring, the leaves of autumn, and the snows of winter. Chapter 8. The Messenger from the Moon. As night deepened and the hour approached midnight, a strange brilliance fell over the house, brighter than daylight, as if the full moon had been multiplied tenfold. Every corner of the garden was lit so clearly that even the pores on a person's skin could be seen. Then, from the sky, figures descended, riding on clouds. They floated just 5 feet above the ground, standing in silent rows. Those inside and outside the house froze in awe. It felt as though they were under attack by spirits, and all will to resist drained from their bodies. Some tried to lift their bows and knock their arrows, but their hands trembled too much to hold them steady. Even the bravest among them, though determined to fight, found their arrows veering off course. None could strike true. In the end, they could only stare at one another, helpless and overwhelmed. The celestial visitors were clad in garments more splendid than anything seen on earth, radiant, magnificent, beyond compare. Among them stood a chariot floating in the air, adorned with a canopy of sheer silk that shimmered in the moonlight. Then, from within the procession, a figure who appeared to be their king called out toward the house. "Lord Take Torai no Okina, step forth." The old bamboo cutter, who had once braved the fiercest warriors, now felt as if he were drunk, unable to stand, and collapsed face down in fear. The king continued, "Foolish man. Because of a small act of virtue, we allowed Princess Kaguya to stay here on earth for a brief time as your ward. But now, you've grown wealthy and proud, forgetting your place. She was sent to you only as a temporary punishment for a sin committed long ago. That time is over. Her sentence is complete, and we have come to take her home. Yet here you are, weeping. It is useless. Bring her to us, at once." The old man, tears falling from his eyes, answered, "I have raised her with all my heart for over 20 years. You call that a brief time? Surely, you must be speaking of someone else. And besides, Princess Kaguya is very ill. She cannot possibly travel." There was no reply. Instead, the flying chariot descended to the rooftop. One of the celestial beings called gently, "Princess Kaguya, why do you remain in such a tainted place?" The doors of the house, tightly closed, began to open on their own. The lattices swung wide, as if unseen hands were pushing them. The old woman, who had been holding Princess Kaguya close, suddenly found her arms empty. The princess had already stepped outside. None could stop her. The old man and woman could only watch, crying, eyes lifted to the heavens. Princess Kaguya walked to where the old man lay weeping on the ground. "I do not go willingly," she said. "Please, at the very least, see me off as I rise to the heavens." But he answered through sobs, "How can I send you off, when my heart is breaking like this? Are you truly leaving me behind? If you must go, then please, take me with you." Hearing this, Kaguya herself began to weep. "I will leave behind a letter," she said. "When you miss me, read it and remember me." She wrote, with trembling hand, "If I had truly been born in this world, I would have stayed by your side until the end of your days. To leave you like this brings me such sorrow. I will leave my robe behind, think of it as my keepsake. Look upon it whenever the moon is full. I go now, leaving you behind, and it feels as though I will fall from the sky with grief." A celestial being stepped forward, holding 2 boxes, one containing a robe of heavenly feathers, the other a vial of the elixir of immortality. "Please drink this medicine," the figure said. "After partaking in the impure food of this world, you must feel unwell." Kaguya took only the tiniest sip. She tried to wrap the rest in her robe as a memento, but the celestial attendant gently stopped her, instead presenting the feathered robe for her to wear. "Wait," she said. "Once I wear the heavenly robe, they say I will lose all earthly emotion. Before that happens, I must say one last thing. And with calm grace, she sat to write another letter, this time to the Emperor of Japan. Though your Majesty sent many to keep me here, the heavenly summons cannot be refused. I am taken against my will, and it saddens me deeply. I regret that I could not serve at court. Please forgive my disrespect in resisting your words. If you still hold my memory in your heart, know that I, too, am filled with sorrow. She added, only now, at the moment of our farewell, do I realize how deeply I feel for you. She attached this letter to the vial of immortality and handed it to a high-ranking courtier, Prince Ōtomo. As he received it, the celestial being swiftly clothed her in the feathered robe. In that instant, all of Kaguya Hime's feelings for the bamboo cutter, her compassion and sorrow, vanished. Now calm and expressionless, she stepped into the chariot. Surrounded by 100 celestial attendants, she rose into the sky. The old man and woman remained on the ground, weeping blood tears of grief. Reading the letter she had left behind only deepened their despair. They could not eat, they could not rise from their beds. The prince returned to the palace and reported everything to the emperor in full detail, delivering Kaguya Hime's letter and the elixir. The emperor read the letter and was overwhelmed by sadness. He stopped eating, ceased all music and poetry, and summoned his ministers. Tell me, he asked, which mountain is closest to heaven? One of his attendants replied, there is a mountain in the province of Suruga. It stands high above the land, near the capital, and is said to be closest to the sky. Upon hearing this, the emperor declared, if I can never see her again, what use is immortality to me, who now drowns in tears? Chapter 9. The Ascent of Princess Kaguya. As the bamboo cutter wept, his heart in turmoil, Princess Kaguya gently approached him. I do not wish to leave like this, she said softly. But since I must return to the heavens, please, at the very least, see me off. But the old man, collapsed in sorrow, cried out, how can I possibly see you off, when my heart is breaking? Are you abandoning me, leaving me behind without a thought? If you must go, then take me with you. Hearing his words, Kaguya's heart too was shaken. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, then, let me leave behind a letter. Please read it whenever you think of me. With trembling hands and a tear-streaked face, she wrote, had I truly been born of this world, I would have stayed by your side until you no longer wept. But now, we must part, and it grieves me more than I can say. The robe I leave behind, please keep it as a remembrance of me. And on nights when the moon is full, look upon it, and remember. For even as I return to the sky, I feel as though I might fall, from the sorrow of leaving you both behind. One of the heavenly beings stepped forward, carrying a small box. Inside it was the celestial feathered robe. In another box, there was the elixir of immortality. Please, drink this medicine, the celestial said. You've consumed the food of this impure world. You must not feel well. Kaguya took only a small taste, just enough. She tried to wrap the rest in her robe, to leave behind. But the heavenly being gently stopped her. Instead, he reached for the robe and moved to dress her. Please wait a moment, Kaguya said quickly. They say that once the robe is worn, all feelings of this world vanish. There is something I must say, something I must write, before that happens. The celestial was impatient. But Kaguya, calm and steady, began to compose a final letter to the emperor. Her movements were graceful, her expression serene. You sent so many to try and keep me here, and I am deeply saddened that I must leave despite your kindness. I could not appear at court as I had promised. not because of unwillingness, but because of my strange fate. I fear I may have offended you, and if I leave as someone who seemed to spurn your words, please forgive me. That regret will stay with me." She then added a final line as she reached for the robe. "Now, as I prepare to wear the feathered robe and say farewell, I find myself thinking of you more than ever." With the letter finished and the elixir sealed beside it, she called for the imperial commander to receive them. As he stepped forward, the celestial quickly placed the feathered robe on her. And in that moment, just as foretold, the love and sorrow she had carried for the bamboo cutter vanished from her heart. No longer burdened by earthly grief, Kaguya calmly stepped into the heavenly carriage. With 100 celestial attendants around her, she rose into the sky, never to return. Chapter 10: The Smoke of Mount Fuji. The Emperor received the elixir of immortality, the one Princess Kaguya had left behind. He gazed upon the small jar and the letter that came with it, and felt a deep sorrow fill his heart. But instead of keeping the elixir, he made a solemn decision. He summoned a messenger, an official named Tsuki no Iwakasa, and gave him an imperial command. "Take this letter and this elixir," he said, "to the peak of the mountain said to rise in the land of Suruga. And there, at the mountaintop, the emperor ordered a ritual. Place the letter beside the jar of the elixir," he said, "and set them both aflame. Let them burn in the open air, as an offering and as a farewell." Obeying this command, the messenger set out with a great number of soldiers. Together, they climbed to the very summit of the mountain. From that day on, it is said that the mountain came to be known as Fuji no Yama. The mountain abundant with soldiers. And even now, they say the smoke from that sacred fire still rises into the sky, drifting gently among the clouds, like a memory that refuses to fade.